think people are very proud of working here, and they really recognize that this is more than just their building. We are really proud to be able to share it with everyone in Calgary.
It's just the talent that we were able to attract to work on this project from all over the world is just unbelievable.
Everyone was very passionate, and we were creating this beautiful building.
The collective team recognized very early that really the Bow is about people. And honestly, the Bow is for people.
It is truly a great contribution to the skyline of the city.
To be fortunate enough to work on a world-class tower as the Bow is absolutely the greatest thing I could ever have done.
When the Bow was first conceived, we were a smaller company, to be sure, but we were also spread out amongst 5 or 6 disparate buildings.
There was a lot of wasted time for employees traveling from one building to another.
It was inefficient.
We really needed a building where we could bring everybody together in one spot.
But there was a question of how big it should be, what should it look like.
It was just an idea. There was no architect. Even at that point in time, there was no developer, there was no construction company. It was very early days.
I got a call from Bob Wigglesworth and Craig Reardon saying, could you come talk to us about doing a headquarters building in Calgary?
The developer of the Bow, Matthews Southwest, we actually used them to acquire the property within Calgary, and we acquired it very under the radar, so no one knew who was acquiring the land.
Really, what Encana did is they worked with Matthews Southwest to put together the team.
Really, it took special people that could get along with other people, understand what the other people involved needed, and find a way to deliver that.
The team really evolved over a period of time.
A group that has the sort of courage and of their convictions to go ahead and do something really different.
There was a sense when this building was conceived that east of Centre Street was just not that cool a part of town.
The Bow was the first of its kind to say, you know what, so much for that rule, we're going to go to the east side of downtown.
We're seeing the whole East Village now being developed, and we're going to be in the middle of it. The next step was determining which architectural firm we should hire to do the design of the building. When we went to London and met with the Foster & Partners team, it was a unanimous decision.
A Calgary company wanted to hire somebody like Foster's. I just thought that was extraordinary.
One of the things that was interesting to us coming from London was the climate in Calgary, the very, very cold winters, the sunshine, the summer, and really trying to understand the site with a view to creating genuinely a new, very sustainable building.
The people that Foster brought to the project were excellent, and our role was to work side by side with them to ensure that all of the ideas that were being generated by our team were workable in terms of construction.
All of our staff wanted to be in an outside office on the windows. They wanted natural light. And what the Foster & Partners team proved to us in their massing models is that you can get more 10-foot by 15-foot offices on a curve than you can on a straight line.
Foster would test some ideas on building shape, and we would have to test them from an interior planning perspective.
When the building was issued for development permit, it was discovered at that point that the building was too high and that there was going to be a shadowing issue with the Bow River.
And I had an idea which people in the city still give me a hard time about, which was to take the pathway and just move it out into the river a little bit so that the shadow just kind of caused this little dimple in the river, and that didn't go over very well.
So they actually didn't delete the number of floors but compressed the building down.
I participated in the first turning of sod for the Bow in July of 2007.
We needed to do a parkade that was 6 floors down over 2 city blocks. And so we had a limited period of time that we could actually take 6th Avenue out of service.
We waited for the Calgary Stampede Parade to cross by the site, began the excavation. Everyone had to dig down all the way to the bottom and then dig back up before the Stampede the next year, because we didn't want to be the reason they had to change the parade route.
For the first time in 99 years at that point.
We formed and poured the raft slab. That was a significant milestone.
When I was explaining to my mom, the raft slab is the thing that keeps the building from falling over. It's kind of the key piece. It was the biggest raft pour that we'd ever seen in this part of the world. Once it had the base, then you're able to start building that parkade.
6 floors underground, 2 city blocks long. You can stand on 5th Avenue and actually look all the way down the corridor to 7th Avenue. 2 blocks underground.
The biggest challenge, of course, was when the financial crisis came in 2008.
You know, what we saw in Calgary at that time were all sorts of buildings being stopped, all sorts of projects being capped off at grade.
And that created quite a challenge in terms of keeping the project going. You know, there was a time where we were all worried that the project might not go.
The Bow was really the beacon of work that was still going on in the city at that time, because so much had come to a halt. So we just dug in and kept on working.
Beginning of 2009, we began the above-grade structural steel tower work that would be a 2-year process, 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, finally finishing at the beginning of 2012.
When you sit down and you look at the dimensions and you quantify how much structural steel, how much concrete there is, how much curtain wall there is, you really start to get a grasp for it.
And you know, when you look at the Bow, you see those diagrid pieces. Walking up from underneath and seeing it, I'm going, oh my God, that thing is huge.
Getting to a height of 24 floors and living that achievement and that experience, only to really have it crystallized that we're going up beyond that.
It was a fast-track project, which means that we had the designers working out just in front of the constructors, and we had to push the designers to meet the schedule as well as the constructors.
The owner's representatives, Ledcor is the construction manager, the trades, all worked together to come to grips with what it was going to take to deliver a very complex, scheduled final product.
Us older guys came up with a saying that we've used for years, and that is, how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time.
I think one of the strongest aspects of Bow construction was attention to safety and safe work environment. We had a very enviable safety record. I can think of dozens of occasions where workers would say that this was one of the safest construction projects they had worked on, and they felt very grateful to be in such an environment.
We had 5 of these hoists situated on the building, exterior hoists at one time, and it was full of very fragile and heavy pieces of equipment and material. Thousands of persons that had to move up and down those at the same time.
We were first approached by buying the building in 2006, around 7 years ago.
It was never the intent long-term for Encana to own the Bow.
But we wanted to get it far enough along that it really worked for us and then turn it over to people whose business that is.
We were very, very excited about the Bow. It is and was a first-class project from beginning to end, an opportunity of a lifetime.
They began to analyze the building from their perspective as the future landlord. And of course, that was a huge turnaround for us because the building was already under construction.
Probably the biggest single challenge we faced during the construction was after the split of Encana and Cenovus into 2 companies.
So now we had to look at security, how we could split off various areas so that 2 competing companies could coexist in a building.
And I'm really proud of the way that the team responded to those challenges and took them in and came up with great and innovative solutions to make sure that the project schedule wasn't impacted any more than it needed to be.
The idea was to take the building about 24 to 26 floors up and then start the tenant improvements below so that you've got a fairly sizable separation between activities.
So we were still working on the exterior and higher up the tower while we were moving people and final finishes into the lower part of the structure.
We wanted a lot of collaboration opportunities, so when they designed the interior, we wanted to make sure we had adequate space to meet really that fundamental requirement for teamwork.
It's really the trend for the highest officials in the company to be on the highest floors, and that wasn't a decision made. There was a decision made by both Encana and Cenovus to be on floors where they're accessible to the employees, where they can be reached and be accessible to everybody.
So now we have the Sky Gardens, and that's what we're seeing, that people are congregating there.
The cross kind of pollination of ideas that happen when people spontaneously meet in impromptu ways in the Sky Gardens here, in the elevators, that was really a focused effort to create those opportunities for that great creative friction that happens when people bump into each other.
Our experience here so far has exceeded our expectations.
There's not a day that goes by that people don't just look at it and say, wow.
My favorite area on 54 is in the tip. We call the rounded corners of the building the tips. And there's seating that is modern Italian furniture, and it really accentuates the modern steel and glass building.
You see all this beautiful woodwork and glass and floor finishes that also added a level of complexity that probably hasn't been seen, certainly anywhere in Calgary.
Even as you walk around the Bow, it's hard to get a sense of scale. This is a very, very large building with large floor plates.
There's a special feeling you get when you look at its magnificence.
Just recently we did a calculation of the time investment to the project and came up with a number just under 9.3 million person hours. That's a lot of time.
It's now by far the biggest building that we at Foster & Partners have ever done in North America.
And the whole building is very gentle. For all of its enormity, it's something you can reach out and touch.
You can't walk by the Wonderland piece on the plaza and not see a school class or somebody rubbernecking on the plaza of the Bow. That's what we've been a part of.
Well, I think the Bow is an architectural statement.
The highlight of my career.
Humbling.
Phenomenal.
Great collaboration and great teamwork.
It's a very special thing.
Complexity and intensity.
It's a real testament to who we are.
It was exhilarating, it was a challenge, and it was a lot of fun.
The highlight of my life.
And it's useful.
I think of it as a wonderful piece of art.
It is a huge contribution to the city.
It's more than just a building. It's actually a sense of place.
We're talking about people, and that sums it up.